The storm had not been kind. For days, the skies had opened without mercy, pouring sheets of rain that seemed endless. The streets that once carried laughter, school buses, and the smell of fresh baked bread from the corner shop now resembled a drowning world. It was as though the earth had inhaled too much and could no longer hold back the flood. May had watched the water rise from her living room window with dread. At first, it had pooled in the street, trickling along the gutters. By midnight, it had crept up to the driveway. By dawn, it was pushing through the door, seeping into the house like an uninvited guest. Now, as she clutched her baby, Daniel, to her chest, the water lapped at her knees, dark and cold. Her husband, David, had been away on a work trip when the storm warnings turned into evacuation orders. They had spoken on the phone only briefly, his voice breaking up, the line cutting out. "Stay safe. Stay upstairs if you have to. Help will come." Those were his last words before the network collapsed completely. Help. May didn't know if help was truly coming. The television had stopped working hours ago, and the radio only sputtered static. Outside, she could hear shouts, dogs barking in distress, car alarms wailing, and the muffled sound of sirens somewhere far away. The world she knew felt like it was sinking. Daniel whimpered in her arms, his small face pressed against her soaked shoulder. She tried to rock him, whispering, "It's okay, baby, mommy's here," but her voice trembled too much to be convincing. By the time the rescue boat appeared on her flooded street, May was standing on a dining chair, clutching Daniel tightly. The water was nearly waist-high now, murky and filled with floating debris, a shoe, a picture frame, a child's toy boat that eerily bobbed past. "Ma'am," a voice called out, strong, cutting through the chaos. May turned to see men in camouflage wading through the water. Their uniforms were soaked, their boots heavy, but their expressions were sharp with purpose. One of them, taller than the rest, moved quickly toward her. "Ma'am, we're here to get you out," he shouted over the sound of rushing water. May's throat tightened. She wanted to say something, "Thank you, yes, please," but fear gripped her tongue. She only hugged Daniel closer. The soldier stopped in front of her, his presence both commanding and strangely calming. His cap dripped with rainwater, his jaw was set with determination, but his eyes were steady, gentle, human. "Give me the baby," he said firmly, holding out his arms. May instinctively recoiled. "No, he's all I have." "I know," the soldier replied, lowering his voice. "And I promise, I'll keep him safe. But you can't carry him and wade through this water. Trust me." There was no time to argue. May looked down at the black, swirling flood, then back at her son's tiny, fragile form. She saw the soldier's hands, strong, calloused, but steady. Slowly, with tears stinging her eyes, she placed Daniel into his arms. The soldier cradled the infant as though he had done it 100 times before. He adjusted his grip carefully, one arm under Daniel's small body, the other shielding his head from the rain. Then he looked at May. "Stay right behind me. Don't stop, don't look back. We'll get you both out." May nodded weakly. The water was freezing as she stepped down from the chair. It dragged at her legs with every step, like invisible hands trying to pull her under. She gasped, but kept moving, eyes fixed on the soldier's back. Daniel, remarkably, was calm in the stranger's arms. He didn't cry. Instead, he rested his head against the soldier's chest as if sensing the safety in his heartbeat. May followed, stumbling but determined, her arms stretched forward, slightly as if the invisible tether between mother and child would keep him close. Around them, the street was a surreal battlefield. A car roof barely poked above the water's surface, its headlights dimmed forever. Neighbors clung to floating mattresses, waiting for boats to reach them. Rescuers shouted orders, voices straining above the storm. Behind them, another soldier carried a bright orange fuel can, heading toward a rescue boat anchored nearby. The air smelled of gasoline, wet earth, and fear. Halfway to the boat, May faltered. Her legs struck something submerged, a branch, maybe, and she stumbled. The water splashed against her chest, pulling her down. Panic rose in her throat like fire. But the soldier carrying Daniel turned instantly. He shifted the baby into one arm and reached out with the other, gripping May's wrist tightly. "I've got you," he said firmly, pulling her upright. His strength steadied her, and for a moment, she allowed herself to believe his words. When they finally reached the boat, the soldier climbed in first, still holding Daniel. He placed the baby gently onto a dry blanket someone had spread across the bench. Only then did he extend his arms again, helping May clamber aboard. She collapsed into the boat, breathless, her clothes heavy with water. Daniel was safe in her arms again within seconds. She held him tightly, kissing his damp forehead over and over, whispering promises into his tiny ear. "We're okay. Mommy's here. We're safe now." The soldier didn't linger. He gave May a reassuring nod, then turned back into the water without hesitation. More people were waiting. As the boat's motor roared to life, carrying May and Daniel toward higher ground, she looked back one last time. She saw the soldier wading deeper into the flood, his figure steady against the chaos, ready to lift another stranger to safety. Tears blurred her vision, but they weren't just tears of fear. They were tears of gratitude, of awe. In the middle of a storm that had stripped everything away, her home, her belongings, her sense of security, she had found something unshakable, the humanity of strangers who risked everything for people they didn't know. When the boat reached the shelter set up at the edge of town, May stepped onto dry ground at last. She wrapped Daniel in a blanket and pressed him against her chest. He stirred, then let out a soft sigh before drifting into sleep. She sat down on the curb, shivering, staring at the horizon where the flood still swallowed her world. And though her heart ached for all she had lost, she whispered a silent prayer of thanks, for her child's life, for the soldiers, and for the hope that even the fiercest storm could not wash away.